Hi friends, it's Sophia from Farmview Creators. Today we're going to work on the Hello Fall mini sign kit. This comes with 4 little signs and it is from the Rust Covered Cottage by Christina. It fits perfectly into the beaded frame and the shutter frame. So I am going in and I am just putting the pieces on my sticky board. I like to reuse my sticky boards at least twice. And then I am going in on one of the pieces with my Buttercream chalk style paint and giving a light coat. I like to go lighter on the first coat, heavier on the second coat, and I always paint with the grain. Then I'm going in on my second one with British Gray, which is a very nice, cool gray. It is a mineral acrylic from Couture. And then on the third one, I am using Sophia, which is also a mineral acrylic from Couture. Again, paint with the grain. The paint lays down so much easier. It actually takes less paint to cover if you paint with the grain. So on the brick backboard, I'm using Misty Fjord, but I'm going to water that down so that it does not cover up those score lines for the brick background. I want them to shine through. So if you water it down and you kind of brush parallel to the board, you'll still have those score lines showing up. Another tip is to use a roller to roll that on. Either way works very well. And then I am going to go in and paint the frames for each of these backgrounds. So I'm hitting the British Gray first. I really like that each of these pieces has a little frame. I think it just makes it look a little more polished. Then I'm hitting the Buttercream. Then I'm going to go in with Sophia on that frame, and then also on the frame that has the words Hello Fall on them. I like normally to use a sponge dropper for words because it's easier to make sure that you're not having any paint pool up in all the nooks and crannies of the letters. But this time I just used my brush, and you can see that I kind of wiped back in those corners. I'm going to hit the Misty Fjord again. It takes more layers to get the depth of color that you may want, but it's worth it. I'm getting that second layer of the British Gray. Again, I go a little bit heavier on my second layers versus my first. I'm going to get that Buttercream. I'm running very low on Buttercream. I've been really using it a lot lately. I just love it. I'm going to get that Sophia. Give all of those a nice even layer. Hit that Misty Fjord a third time. And then I am going to put a second layer on the Buttercream frame, and then I'm going to go hit the whipped cream topper. I'm only going to put 1 layer on this one because I do want it to kind of have some color differential there. And then get another layer on that British Gray frame. And then hit those 2 that have the Sophia. It's a really nice muted lighter blue. I'm a big fan of any shade of blue. Making sure I don't have any buildup in between those words and the letters. And I'm going to paint the cinnamon sticks and the top of the pumpkin with the glaze in the shade Amber Honey. I'm going to paint the mug in Autumn Sage. That is another chalk style paint. I also hit that little leaf. I'm trying to spread the colors across as many pieces as possible. Hitting the little tiny leaves with lots of veins with my Firelight, and then kind of mixing that in on the edge with that Autumn Sage. And then I'm going to paint the pumpkin really nice even layer of that Firelight, which is such a really nice autumn orange. I'm going to use a sponge dauber on those little words with the Firelight, just because it's just easier to control the amount of paint so that it doesn't goop up. Getting that second layer of that Autumn Sage. And then hitting that stem of the pumpkin with that glaze. Now I'm going to go in on the sweater, and I'm going to use a little bit deeper blue that really looks very nice with the Sophia. And this is a vintage Flair. I'm also going to hit that heart because, again, I want the colors to kind of flow between the four pieces. I'm going to put another layer of the Misty Fjord on the brick. Give that a really good dry. And now I'm going to go in on the sweater with an essential stencil. This is one of their 6x6 mini texture stencils. It's a pack. I want to say there's 5 or 6 different textures, and I'm using one of their newer stencil brushes. I really like their new brushes, and it's so easy to work with, and that's so pretty. I love anything two-tone. So not only did I do two-tone on the sweater, but on the mug with the Autumn Sage, I'm going to go in with the Misty Fjord and give that some dots to give that two-tone look. But first, I'm putting some Firelight dots on the Hello Fall. And then there we go with the Misty Fjord dots across the mug. Whenever you make dots, you want to work in a triangular pattern and just think of it as triangles. I'm not very good at getting lines straight or even, so forgive me. And now on this background, I'm going to go in with the Autumn Sage and put dots. I am making these a little further apart so it's not so busy. I want there to be a difference between the mug and the background. Again, triangles. Always think triangles. And I really like using the end of a small paintbrush to do my dots. Now I'm going to go in and do my trio of accent dots across several of the other pieces with my buttercream. The dots on the heart were not coming out very well. I didn't have enough paint on my the end of my paintbrush, so I just wiped them off with a baby wipe and started again. Easy peasy. Try not to overdo it with the dots, but I did want those little accents in there. So now I'm going to go in with my Debbie's DIY dark wax and hit the score lines and the edges of the pieces. When I get too much, I just wipe it back with my finger. If that doesn't work, I pull out the baby wipe. I am getting just the edges of all the pieces. I like to keep my smaller pieces on my sticky board instead of detaching them. I've just found it easier to leave them stuck. And I did all the frames, and I was doing the edges of the backboards, and then I realized the frame is going to cover that up, Lethea. So I'm glad I figured that out. So I just wiped it through to give it more of a grungy look. And then I'm going to go in with my favorite dead flat top coat. This takes out all the shine and it gives a layer of protection. So I'm just giving a thin, even coat of that all across. I love that Christina is now carrying the Paint Couture products because it's like a one-stop shop. You can buy your wood kits and your paint all in the same place. Again, I want to make sure that it doesn't pool up with the letters, and I went back and hit some spots that I could tell in the light I did not get good coverage on the Hello Fall. I like to go ahead and put the top coat on before I glue my pieces together so that it doesn't gather up between the layers. And as I take the pieces off, I'm trying to kind of put them together with where they are going to go. And I'm using my art glitter glue. I love the art glitter glue because it does not make my fingers sticky. It dries clear, and it gives you just a little bit of wiggle room. So, you know, everybody makes mistakes. If you make a mistake, you can pull those pieces apart if you catch them quick enough and wiggle your pieces around. So on that, I wanted to make sure I was lining up the cream with the edge of the mugs, and then on those letters I'm just putting a very light layer of the art glitter glue. I recently refilled my bottle with their larger refill bottle, and it's liking to blow bubbles right now, so that's fun. Really making sure I have those corners and edges adhered with the frame, and then trying to center that up. You can still see the score lines, you just might have to lift it and let the light hit it properly. Getting that pumpkin. Sometimes I put the frame on first, sometimes I put it on last. It's just however I feel. I just really like how all these pieces came together. And I like how three-dimensional these kits are, with layers upon layers of cuteness. And there you have them. That one is in the beaded frame with all 4, and then here's the shutter frame with the 3. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.